Hola, buenos días a todos y a todas. Mi nombre es María Torres, soy profesora de la Universidad de Día y quería comenzar, tanto mi nombre como el de mis compañeros, agradeciéndoles a la organización de este congreso la posibilidad de dejarnos participar en él. Voy a comenzar a comentarles brevemente lo que hemos sido nuestra investigación. Una investigación que he llevado a cabo junto con la doctora María López y con la doctora René Media y con Gabriela Pérez Cordón. Como ven, el título de nuestra ponencia es en inglés, por lo cual procedo a cambiar el idioma ahora mismo. Well, as you can easily appreciate, our paper has been entitled Gender Cyber Violence, Concepts and Modalities of Committing Violence Against Women. And as an introduction, we can say that nowadays society has been is being highly influenced in an unquestionable way due to the impact of the networks in our lives. Today, everybody is a virtual user of them, as you know, and this is something which has been easily reached throughout the implementation of smartphones, tablets, laptops, and personal watches, and so on. All of them mobile devices which allow to be connected to the internet everywhere during the whole day. On the one hand, all this could be seen like something positive and useful in our routines, as long as new technologies of information and communication were always used for good purposes. But the reality now shows that the overcrowding of technological gadgets has provoked the appearance of addictive conducts and even new ways of committing crimes known as cybercrimes. A lot of these crimes are carried out for abusers who have found in tics a new way of mistreating their victims. That is how gender violence arises. This is digital violence or technology-facilitated gender-based abuse, and as it is understood in Anglo-Saxon contexts, which make reference to determined violent behaviors committed in the network towards the partner or ex-partner. Within this context, some terms appear like, for instance, cyberbullying, online harassment, virtual violence, sexualized extortion, spamming, or revenge porn, among many others, which will be widely analyzed throughout this research. All of them constitute violent behaviors happening in digital environments, and they mainly affect women and girls more. Regarding the objectives, just saying that within this research has been so important to distinguish between some general objectives and one more specific. Considering the relevance of this current troublesome, it is more than necessary to create awareness about the risks of determined behavior on the internet, to identify the diverse indicators of online harassment in and also out couple relationships. Another object is to analyze some experiences and reactions in situations of gender violence, gender violence, to show the consequences that a victim of this kind of violence suffers, and to sensitize also young people, families, and professionals for the intervention and prevention as well of this serious social traffic. The methodology we have followed. But regarding this point, I would like to say that the methodology uh, we have used or applied has been what sorry this slide is not okay now, sorry for the mistake. As I was saying, the methodology applied in this investigation has been a qualitative one. From a qualitative point of view, is very important dealing with the eradication and try to reduce and understand all the crimes related with gender violence, gender civil violence, so that diverse terms and different ecologies about it are included here in our research. And they have been also analyzed in order to make them know in a deeper way and raise awareness that at the end is for us the most important part. Regarding the results, I must say that reality shows that every day many women die around the world only because of that, just because they are women. Lots of them die being victims of gender violence, which is fed of all concepts based on a patriarchal culture, which pampers silences and ignorance for detecting silence. Sexist crimes are the most heinous expression of inequality and the real damage of this social scourge, as Maria Gamet, which is the director of the What of the states, okay, as she states, she says, and I quote, it reaches women and girls who are erased, subjected, terrorized, attacked, prostituted, and so on. In Spain, according to official data of the Spanish government, more than 1,000 women have already died since 2003, and more than 30,000 once report every year that they are victims of gender violence, according to the INA. Concretely, in our country, 30 of them have died only during last year, as it is claimed by Jimenez Barrio Canal in the foreword that he wrote in Violencia sobre Violencia de Género. That is a book written by Garcia and Garrido, José Garrido. And Jimenez Barrio Canal states, and I quote, coronavirus crisis has put our civilization in check, and they have forced us to turn many of our routines into virtual. Internet, as he also states, and I quote, has opened many highways with no tolls to the most sordid behaviors of human beings, gender violence as a result. Cyberviolence is a new typology of gender violence, which becomes another very important way, which we have to pay attention to, of suffering for lots and lots of women and girls who feel under an absolute control due to any possible physical border is surpassed, while aggressors, or they are also called abusers, take refuge in the anonymity. that the network allows. Throughout this study, we offer diverse theoretical contributions and analyze some concepts and modalities about cyberviolence, which allow conceptualizing terms for, for a deeper and best knowledge in order to establish some preventive strategies to eradicate, to end this kind of violence. In the following slide, you can see that I have we have included here just some names of different concepts and terms related to this social skirt. Okay, and as we don't have time enough for describing and analyzing deeply all of them in here, I'm just going to describe them very, very briefly, okay? Because as I said before, all of you can find the whole research, the whole test in the publication after the Congress is celebrated, as you know. For us, it was very important to start by saying a very brief discussion of between offline violence and online violence. Obviously, offline violence is making reference to all the behaviors which happen in the offline world, so that is the real world. And regarding the online, or also called virtual or cyber violence, or even cyber harassment, because it has received so many different names, different terms. We can say that it can be considered like an extrapolation of violence against women into the online world. That is the main difference between these two terms that are so important to be considered. Regarding the third point, reading here, cyber violence against women, or which is also called cyber violence, so that is violence against women and girls, corresponds to all the different kinds of cyber violence against women and girls, which is a type of gender-based violence that is perpetrated through electronic communication and the internet. Online violence against women and girls is gender-based violence through electronic communication and the internet. Although online violence can affect both women and men, and women and girls experience different and more traumatic forms of cyberbullying. There are various forms of cyberbullying against women and girls, such as online stalking, pornography, without the consent of the person, the pictures, which is also called, as we will see later, revenge porn, blaming and harassment for sex, slut, shaming, unwanted pornography, sexual harassment, which is also called extortion, rape and death threats, the collection of information about the victim and the disclosure of her private information on the internet, which is also called, or which is also known like doxing, as AFS states in 2017. Regarding the next point, cyberflashing. Cyberflashing is the act of someone using the internet to send an image of their naked body, especially the genitals or the sexual organs, to someone that they don't know and who has asked them to do this. Cyberbullying or cyberstalking is the repeated use of electronic communication to harass or frighten someone, in this case women and girls, for example, by sending threatening emails. This concept is being deeply studied nowadays due to some authors propose to use terms such as severe obsessional pursuits, like expert Van der Wijk stated in 2018. Regarding doxing is that it's just to publish private information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. The crime of it regarding Garcia Collantes and Catulo Anton is the discovery and revelation of secrets, as they both state in the book they wrote, entitled Violencia ante Violencia de Género, and published recently some months ago. The next term will be gender trolling versus generic trolling. Okay, we can say regarding these two topics that gender trolls believe obsessively in the stances they take and act against their targets out of their sincerely held intentions. Like generic trolls, they try to provoke the targets, but more often, even more often, they hope to inspire even fear in them and to win the battle they believe they are winning, which is to drive the target along with her objectionable opinions, usually that women deserve social, political, and economic equality with men out of public discourse line as well. IPSA are the initials or the acronym. This is an acronym. Okay, it's an Anglophone acronym. It is used for making reference to the image-based on sexual exploitation, as the authors Henry and Powell said in 2018. Or it is also called image-based sexual abuse, regarding experts in this topic like McLean, Brackley, and Houghton. Regarding sexting, here you can see that we can distinguish between soft and hard sexting, that all this will be fully explained in the whole text in the publication. But just for giving you some information about sexting, we can say that it is an Anglo-Saxon acronym, as Martinez stated in 2013, that combines the word sex and texting. This is only considered a crime when the private contents of sexual nature are published or used with no consent of the exposed person. This is also an affirmation by Garcia and Garrido in this year, 2021. Regarding sextortion or sexualized extortion, because we can use both different these terms. Sorry, you can say that the practice of extorting money or even sexual favors from someone by threatening to reveal evidence of their sexual activity. Sexual extortion is a growing form of sexual exploitation, which is often facilitated by technology in this current digital age. Sexual extortion happens when a person abuses their power or authority to coerce sexual acts, images, or videos from the victim. The next term I would like to describe very briefly as well is spamming. That consists on sending the same message indiscriminately to a large number of internet users. So in this case, it's normally the users or the aggressors are just sending the same information about the victim constantly. Revenge porn, a term that I mentioned at the very beginning, when I was talking about the introduction, is revenge porn. And this consists in revealing sexual explicit images or videos as well of a person posted on the internet, typically by a former social partner, without the consent of the subject, and in order to cause them distress or embarrassment. As Garcia Garrido states, and I quote, this behavior is usually carried out by ex-partners or people linked to them, to her. There are some experts on these topics, like Van der Wijk, one who has been named before, who considers that this literal definition describes in a more accurate way the experience from the author more than focus on the abuse towards victims. Online internet harassment or cyber harassment is the same thing as offline harassment, you can say. It is just that online harassment happens in the virtual world, as we explained before. What is important from the point of view of the law is how the conduct of the eraser or of the abuser affects the victim. This is the most important thing to take into consideration, or that the law has also to take into consideration. The next term will be gender-based hate speech. And regarding this, we can say that cyber violence and hate speech online against women are a form of gender-based violence. The terms cyber violence and hate speech online against women encompass different types of cyber violence, such as cyber harassment, cyber stalking, non-consensual image abuse, and also the specific term sexist hate speech. There is, however, no commonly accepted terminology for these relatively new forms of violence against women. Online platforms where these various forms of violence and abuse occur include social media, for example, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Web content and discussion sites as well, like for example Reddit, or search engines like, for instance, Google. Messaging services as well, like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, WeChat, or Skype. That's for naming some of them. Blogs, dating websites, maps, comment sections of media and newspapers, forums, chat rooms of online games, etc., etc. So as you can appreciate, there are different and lots of ways of committing this kind of gender-based hate speech. Gender cyber violence, well, obviously is what we have just mentioned very briefly, and that will be very highly described and deeply described in the whole test. And regarding cyber control, and we can see that it is characterized by repeated control behaviors towards the victim throughout technology. Normally, there is a constant surveillance of the activities developed by her. According again to Garcia and Garrido, there are other ways of cyber controls that, and I quote, include the use of GPS of mobile phones of victims, knowing her location, or even requesting them the emails passwords based on the false need of romantic love. And finally, in order to finish with this section, we can say some aspects, some very important aspects about dating violence, or what is also called dating abuse. And it is a pattern of assertive and controlling behaviors that one person uses against another in order to gain or even maintain power and control in the relationship. The abuser intentionally behaves in ways that cause fear, degradation, and humiliation to control the person. Forms of abuse can be physical, social, emotional, and psychological. Obviously. Just to finish, regarding some conclusions, I'd like to mention here. Would be just say that throughout this study, we have elaborated by reading and making comparisons of a range of articles dealing with this theme. We have been easily able to take the great ignorance that exists around online harassment and the terrible consequences that the victims suffer in the face of defenses. Moreover, we have appreciated the importance of considering gender cyber violence as another way of bullying victims and the need of protecting persons whose rights are being violated and their lives in danger. It is clear also the importance of a good education, sensitization, and the quality training among all the citizenship, because we cannot forget that this is a battle of everybody, and we must also do it not only for us and for our daughters, for our familia, but also for the victims, especially for them. And well, that has been all. Thank you very much for your attention. Yes, let me say that you can keep in touch, or you can send an email or whatever if you consider. And if you want to, feel free to do it. Okay, don't hesitate to ask whatever you want to. And well, that's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Thanks.